Welcome back to my channel. My name's Katie. I am a Boston-based yarn dyer and knitter. I run the yarn company Claws Out Yarn Co. and I've been knitting for over 20 years. These are my stories. This is what happened. A couple days ago, I realized the absolute state that my project whip bag organization nonsense has come to. I was like, oh my god, when did this many project bags accumulate in my apartment? So I turned to my Instagram followers and I was like, help. How do you force yourself to finish projects? How do you prioritize what needs to get done? Just like, how do you make yourself finish things? Because I am really good at starting things. I'm sure many of you are the same. I'm not so good at the finishing. Even though I love finished objects, I love wearing finished objects, but I just get excited about working on something and then I get to a place where I'm like, okay, I'm bored. And then I don't finish it. And that has kind of been my downfall. It's my biggest like Achilles heel with crafting, and I've always been like this. So I turned to Instagram. The suggestions and recommendations were just rolling in. People had amazing advice, which was so helpful. I decided to make a video about it for you to kind of maybe synthesize some of that information a little bit, and if this video ends up being helpful for you to, give you some additional advice on how to finish projects, I'm happy to help. It's actually, there was advice kind of in two categories. First of all, there was like how to actually rank and prioritize your projects in order of urgency or excitement about a project or a deadline or whatever. There's like that section of how to actually order your projects. And then there was advice in the other category of how to actually make yourself then work on those projects and how to actually have the motivation to finish. Two different camps and like buckets of advice, which was like so helpful. So helpful. You can see like how much information people are giving about their process and their like what works best for them to actually like force themselves to work on things. So I'm gonna kind of go through both of those categories. I'm gonna start with the one about how to rank and prioritize projects. And in that I am actually going to rank the 6 active projects that I have, six projects, and maybe this will also then hopefully help me prioritize and actually finish these projects that I'm working on, because I am very excited about all of them and I really need to work on all of them, but that's like a lot, it bleeds into decision paralysis, and I'm sure I have undiagnosed ADHD, so it's also like, well, none of these are scratching my brain itch today, so I'm just gonna not do any of it, I'm gonna do something else. Which is not helpful when like I actually have to finish stuff. I bought 2 patterns today. I'm like, ooh, let me in there. Like, no, you have to finish the stuff that you're working on first. I want to say what I'm wearing. This is the Sweet Friends tee. It's knit bottom up. The pattern is by Mesomakes and the yarn is also by Mesomakes. This is the colorway Patchwork Scarecrow. She's very fun. It's like a simple, like wide rib. So I think it's like 4 or 5 stitches, 4 or 5 knitting. God, knit 5 or something and then purl 1 the whole way up, and then you do the front and back separate. And then there's no sleeves or anything. You just finish with, there's like an applied I-cord situation. I really like this. I finished this a couple years ago. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to tell you what the 6 projects are that I kind of have going, and you've probably seen most of them if you've watched my past videos, but those are the 6 projects that I'm going to be like thinking about and talking about for this section about how to prioritize them. There's 3 categories, 2 projects. No, 3 categories, 2 projects each of things that I'm working on. It just turned out that way. So I have 2 test knits, so those have deadlines. I have 2 projects for my wedding. Those have the same deadline. And then I have 2 projects that are for fun for me. They don't have a deadline or anything. They are just like dopamine knitting, but I want to finish both of those projects because they both have like important reasons for me making them. So I'm going to start with the test knits because those are the ones that, you know, that's like I owe something to somebody, right? Like I signed up for this test and I owe it to the designer to finish the garment. This one I actually have not shown in a YouTube video yet, but this is my latest test for Perfectly Knotted for Claire Jackson, who I've tested many, many things before in the past, and I really love her garments. It doesn't really looks like a vest at the moment. This is going to be the Grand Slam tee. It's like a baseball tee. So I'm working it all in this main color first. This is the Winner Takes It All from my most recent Mamma Mia collection. And then when I'm done with the body, you do the sleeves in the contrast color, which is, for me, it's Honey Honey from the same collection. And then you also do like you apply piping to the sides of it so it looks like a baseball jersey. So this one, I powered through the first part of it. I did the bust starts, I did everything, and then I like stopped because now I'm like, oh, I have to knit 60 rows flat, and I've knit 2. So my second test knit, this one doesn't have a name yet, and you've seen it in a previous video. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw that I actually had to frog this entire sweater, which I had done down to below the sleeves because it was massive on me. It was way too big, which is my fault. I picked a size up from, like, I'm between sizes, so I picked a size up, and I did it accidentally on size 7 needles when it calls for size 6 needles. So it was just like giant. I was swimming in it. So I restarted it Wednesday. Today's Friday. I restarted on Wednesday, and now I'm back to I'm in the middle of the raglan section, and it's looking really good. It's feeling really good. It also looks just more like my size. So that's the second test knit. These are also my colors. This is by the pound. This blue is Friends of the Public Garden. This one is Super Trooper, and then this yellow is Forever. So those are the 2 test knits. The Grand Slam tee has a June deadline. And this striped sweater that doesn't have a name yet, it has a July deadline, I think. They want it done before the Flock Fiber Festival. So those are the 2 test knits. They're both in pretty good shape, but they do have deadlines and I need to work on them. Obviously the Grand Slam tee has an earlier deadline. Then for the wedding projects, this is the shawl I'm making for my mom for my wedding. Which is my wedding is in 4 weeks tomorrow. Oh God. So this obviously needs to be a lot bigger. So this is like the one that is probably in the least good shape of all of these projects. And then I hadn't started this last time, but I promised you that I would start it before this week's video, and I did. This is going to be Nate's tie for the wedding. So this is the pattern is just called the Wedding Necktie. It's like $1.50 on Ravelry. You should get it if you want to make a tie. And I'm using East Coast Yarn Co's color Water Lily, which Nate picked out for his tie. So this one is, I started it on Tuesday, and I did all the increases for like the front of the tie, and then I just work this part straight until the whole thing is like 22 inches long. So I have like a ways to go on this, but it's pretty small. It's literally only 20 stitches across, so there's plenty of, you know, I will lock in and finish this and it won't take me very long. So those are the 2 wedding projects, and those have the deadline of June 20th. Well, they have the deadline of before June 20th because I need them to be blocked before the wedding. And then we have the 2 projects that I've probably shown the most in my most recent videos, but here is one. This is the Alchemist pullover, which I'm making on my own yarn. This is Constant and Cold, held double on Feline Sock and Classic Surrey Lace. It's a big V-neck sweater. I am like 2 or 3 inches into the body. I have a ways to go, and then it'll have a split hem and sleeves and stuff. So That was pretty good. That one I cast on because I wanted to make a sample out of my own yarn. And then finally, you've seen this one a lot. This is, where's the front? This is the front. This is my Cosmopolitan Tee by Tori Yu, which I'm making just because I need a good summer tee. So that's the reason behind this one. And this one the body has to be about 10 inches long. I've done about 3 or 4. So again, a ways to go on this one. And the deadline for this one is that it's summer now, and I want to have a summer tee for the summer. But also I'm just making this for fun for me. There's no like actual deadline. So those are my 6 projects that I will be referencing throughout this video. Now we can get into the advice that people have given me, which has been so nice. So one person suggested that you order your projects and then knit them in that order. So for me, it would be, these are projects 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to knit project 1 until it's done. Then I'm going to knit project 2 until it's done, and so on. I really like that advice. I think a lot of the advice kind of accumulated around like force yourself to work on one thing at a time. And you're right, that does make sense. And I think ordering them is very helpful. Because you'll be able to, it gives you something to look forward to, right? You're like, well, once I finish project number 1, I can work on project number 2. And obviously you can order those in any like ranking of urgency or importance that you might have. So for me, I think it would probably be in order of deadline. So it would be the 2 wedding projects and the Grand Slam tee that all have June deadlines. Those are my top 3 priorities. I think first is this shawl. Look at how beautiful it is. I want it to be beautiful and long. I think the shawl would be my number 1. Then the Grand Slam tee would be project number 2, and Nate's tie would be project number 3. And then of course the stripey test knit project number 4, because that has the next deadline, and then the 2 projects that are just for me would come after that. Probably the summer tee would be number 5, and then the sweater number 6, because I want the tee to be done while it's still warm out. That's the first advice. Somebody else had a really good idea, which was work on one type of project per day of the week. So their example was like Mondays are socks, Tuesdays are shirts, Wednesdays are sweaters. Like giving yourself like, oh, well, it's this day of the week, so I can only work on this type of project. And I like that. Because what I usually do is I'll like kind of hyperfixate on one project for a few days and then I kind of give up on it. And so I think it'd be really helpful if it's like, okay, well today you can lock in and work on, say, this shawl, but tomorrow is an accessory day, so you have to work on the tie because you don't have any other accessories that you're working on. So I like that idea. That's really cool. And then that also works on like, because I have these 6 projects I'm talking about, but I have a lot more projects that are like around and in various stages of limbo and purgatory and stuff. So like in the future, me having a day that's for knitting socks would actually be super helpful because I have a lot of abandoned sock projects. It's like, okay, well, I finished this one, but it's only noon. What am I going to do? Oh, I'm going to work on a different sock. I'm going to go pick up another one that I've also abandoned. So I like that. And I like having the days of the week always be the same type of project. So like every Monday is sock day or every Tuesday is shirt day or whatever. Because maybe like then if you're later in the week and you're like, I have to work on these projects today because that's my rule for myself, but I'm really excited to go back and work on my socks on Monday. That's like a really cool way to motivate yourself. And it is very helpful if you're like me and you just have a ton of projects lying around. Another person, actually a couple people recommended this, where you work on one project exclusively for a defined amount of time. So the example that they put in my question box was, I just work on one project exclusively for a week at a time. And then usually by the end of that week, I'm close enough to being finished with the project that I'm motivated and I just finish it. And I really like that. I think that might be what I have to do for this because, I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot going on with this, and it's hard to like take on the road with me and stuff, because she's a cone project, but I realize that I have to do it, so I'm gonna choose that doesn't matter. I think it'd be really helpful if I worked on this almost exclusively for a week. For this type of advice, I would personally give myself an allowance. Like tomorrow I'm going to a Red Sox game, so I'm probably going to have like a little small hat project in my bag or something because they don't really care about that. But like otherwise when I'm at home, when I'm on the couch, when I'm doing whatever, I will be working on this shawl. This is my final one of these in this category. Someone else suggested working on whichever one is closest to being done first, so that you are the closest to getting that like dopamine exciting feeling of finishing a project. And I do like that, except that for these 6 projects I'm working on with all their deadlines, that's not gonna work. Because technically I think that that green sweater is the closest to being finished, but it's like the lowest on my priority list. I just locked in on it for a while, so I like hyperfixated, and it's close to being done, but it's not the one that needs to be done. But I think that is very helpful if you're like really stuck in a whip purgatory and you don't have these types of deadlines. I think it would be really helpful to be like, well, that one like just needs a sleeve, or like if I could just bind off the body on that would be awesome. So I think that is very motivational for you if that's what your like project situation is. For me, at this current moment, it's mostly about these deadlines. So that doesn't work for me right now, but it probably will work for me once like the wedding is over. Once the wedding's over, I'll be like, okay, I have to finish like whatever. I will say that for this project, the stripy project, since I'm re-knitting it, like I had literally done, I was like 4 inches under the sleeves. I had done a lot on this project and had to rip it all back. So for this one right now, my priority is like getting it to where it was before I frogged it, which will take a bit. Like I still have another 20 rows to go on the yoke. So, and obviously it's a raglan, so like the rows just get bigger and bigger. So that's like the priority on that project. I think part of why I'm less motivated for these 2 wedding projects, even though they're very like close to my heart and I'm really excited that I'm working on them, is because they're not like, I don't want to say they're not exciting, but it's not the same as like watching a sweater grow, you know what I mean? Like this shawl, as gorgeous as it is, it's just the same 16 row repeat over and over and over again. Same with the tie is like, okay, now just work this straight for 22 inches. That's so many inches. So, that's how I feel about that. But now very quickly, let's go on to how people suggest you motivate yourself to actually finish your garments. All right, the first recommendation people had for how to actually force yourself to finish projects as opposed to prioritizing working on them is to just lock in. You gotta hyper focus, you gotta lock in and really just force yourself to finish things almost as though you are a monogamous knitter, which I'm obviously not. I like that idea. I think, again, that's gonna be really the method that I take to finish this shawl, is to just lock in, you know? Like just force myself to work on it even though it's kind of bulky and kind of annoying. I just have to do it. The second one is to go to your local knit nights or have crafting nights with friends, both for accountability and because a lot of like local yarn stores and craft groups will have finish it nights where you're all bringing a project that you're trying to finish and then you work on it surrounded by people that are also trying to finish projects. And I think that's really beautiful. And I think that would actually be really, really handy for me. I unfortunately have not been able to make it to like Boston Fiber Company's local most recent craft nights because I've been very busy, but I do think something like that would be very motivating for me. Next, this one I think is what I need. No new yarn and no new cast-ons until you finish something. that really forces you to make sure that the finishing garments is the reward that you're getting, the dopamine that you're getting. You're not allowed to have any new stuff before then. Like this morning, I bought Andrea Goggins' new Kingfisher tee pattern because it's so cool and I really, really like it. And then I was like, no, you cannot cast that on. You have to finish something else first. So I bought the pattern, so I supported her designer work, but like I can't do that to myself. I can't do any more projects. And then someone else recommended, finally, which project excites you the most? Which one is the most fun to work on? Which one are you most excited about wearing, or using, or whatever? Like, what will be the most exciting project for you to actually get off of your needles? And for me, it's the stripy one and the purple t-shirt are the two most exciting for me because I really want to wear them and I really want to see what they look like when they're done. Unfortunately, those are the ones that are not deadline driven, so that's okay. But I really like that idea. Like, if you're just stuck, you have too many projects, you don't know which one to prioritize, just pick the one that's the most exciting. So finally, just a few like additional tips that I think are very fun. The first one is to plan your finished object outfits in advance so that you can get excited about wearing your garment. I think that's so fun. Like, ooh, I'm gonna look so cute when I get to wear this. I really want to wear this outfit, but I have to make the garment first. That's so fun. I think that's really brilliant, especially as I think we're all kind of leaning into like slower fashion, analog fashion, being able to plan out your outfits or be like, this is why I'm making this piece because I want it to fit into my wardrobe. Perfect. Great. 2 is to roll dice to choose which project you work on. That is so fun. This one came from Evan Knit Things, who also has an awesome knitting podcast and has done many series where she rolls dice to determine both what project she works on and how long she works on it and like which color she uses, and that's just so cool to me. So I think that might be something I do in the future once these deadlines are kind of kicked out of the way. I think I will probably assign myself some numbers to my projects and just roll a die and just figure out which one I'm going to work on. Because I have a lot of projects. Like I said, I have a lot of whips and a lot of them are like long standing. They've been in jail for a long time and I would like them to come back to me and to actually get finished. But sometimes that just won't happen if I don't force myself to do it. So if the die chooses it. The third recommendation was that kind of going in hand with like not being able to cast anything on until you finish something. This said, I don't cast something on until I finish 2 projects. You can finish 2 projects and then you get to cast on 1 project. It's a little bit of a reward. It's a little bit of a like fun treat, but you have to finish 2 things. And if you desperately want to cast something new on, like I always do, that's extra motivation to be like, okay, I finished this 1 project. I have to finish that pair of socks or this hat that I've been procrastinating on because then I get to cast on this other thing that I'm really, really excited for. That's a great idea. I should probably implement that into my knitting practice, just like baseline all the time, so I stop casting things on. And then the final one, which I think is really fun, is to bring your project on vacation, because when you're on vacation, there are less, this person said no opportunities, but there are less opportunities to start something new. To which I say you grossly underestimate my ability to find a yarn store anywhere I go on vacation. But I see what you mean. If you're going somewhere and maybe you have limited storage, limited space in your like suitcase or your bag or whatever, you can only bring 1 project, you gotta work on that 1 project. And I like that too because then it's like a fun, like, oh well, this project I worked on when I was in Mexico. This project like traveled around Europe with me. This project was on this cruise. Like, I think that's really cool. It builds that special memory into the project that you're working on. And it does actually force you to like limit yourself. I would say if you are the kind of person like me where you find a yarn store anywhere you go on vacation, if you have to buy yarn while you're on that vacation, don't buy needles. Do not also buy needles on your vacation because then you really can't start something new. If you only buy the yarn but you don't have the tools to use it, you can't start anything. And So just a little tip from me. I'm not the person you should be taking advice from, but you're watching my video. So out of all of this advice, I hope some of it was helpful for you. For me, I know that I am absolutely going to be doing the ranking order. So like I said, it's going to be, this is number 1. This is number 2. Number 3. Number 4. Number 5. And number 6. Because that's the order of priority, it's the order of importance, that goes with all the deadlines. And that also kind of fits into like when I want things to be finished, especially those last 2 projects, the t-shirt and the sweater. I want to be able to wear the t-shirt, so I want to finish that one before I finish the sweater. The sweater really just needs to be finished by the time I start doing yarn festivals in the fall. So I have plenty of time on that. I am also going to, I think, implement that advice to work on one project exclusively for a specific period of time. And like I said, for me, that's going to be this shawl project. I really need to get it done. Right now it is a shawl for ants. It needs a lot more work done on it, so that's going to be my project for probably the next week. I think I'm going to try to find a way to like transport the cone with me better, because this project has never left my house. It's never really been a travel project. But because of how soon the wedding is, I think it is going to become a travel project. It has to come with me. And then in terms of how to actually finish things, I'm going to try to go to knit nights when I can, or have people over to the house, or like just meet a friend at a brewery or something, and have somebody that's also working on finishing something next to me, so that we can kind of provide accountability for each other. I think that's really important. The crafting world is so connected and so about community that we might as well be taking advantage of it, right? I think bringing your work and bringing yourself into a community of crafters is really important. So with all that, thanks for watching my video. All my links are in the description, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.